stay on the air counseling you all afternoon, but we're coming to the end of our hour, so I'm just going to cut to the quick. If one of you doesn't say I love you right now...
Direct us to your recliners, preferably one in suede.
Many episodes of Frasier had to be reshot dozens of times simply because the actors couldn't stop laughing. Some of the most iconic lines in the series were never even in the script, and the character Niles Crane almost didn't exist at all. Here are 15 bizarre facts you probably didn't know about Frasier. Number 15, Niles almost didn't exist. Do you remember Niles Crane, the impeccably dressed man whose suit was never a wrinkle out of place, always carrying a handkerchief to wipe down a chair before sitting because of his obsession with cleanliness? Or those painfully awkward moments when Niles completely fell apart whenever he stood in front of Daphne? Now, imagine what the show would be like without Niles. In reality, in the earliest drafts, the character of Niles didn't exist at all. The writers originally had no intention of giving Frasier a brother because they just finished another project about two siblings and were afraid of repeating the same formula. But a destined coincidence changed everything during casting. When David Hyde Pierce showed up to audition for a completely different role, the entire team was stunned by how uncannily he resembled a young Kelsey Grammer. From facial features to gestures to body language, the similarity was so striking that someone in the room reportedly exclaimed, "They look like real brothers!" That single moment sparked a dramatic rewrite of the script. The producers realized that if Pierce played Frasier's brother, they would gain a priceless piece of visual comedy without needing a single line of dialogue. The audience would instantly believe they were family. If the casting directors hadn't noticed that resemblance, we might have lost one of the most iconic sibling duos in sitcom history. Number 14. Episodes had to be reshot because the actors broke into laughter. On screen, the Crane men always appear composed, refined, and perfectly proper, don't they? In reality, behind those expensive suits were countless moments of uncontrollable laughter that completely broke the scene. Much of this came from Kelsey Grammer's unique acting style. He often skimmed the script right before filming to keep his performance fresh and spontaneous. Because he didn't fully know how his co-stars would deliver their lines, John Mahoney was frequently caught off guard by the witty exchanges, bursting into laughter mid-scene. Although this forced the crew to spend extra time reshooting, that natural unscripted chemistry brought a special energy to every episode, helping Frasier become a sitcom masterpiece, winning a record 37 Emmy Awards. Number 13. The entire series almost didn't exist. Can you believe it? Frasier almost became a very dark drama instead. That's right. In the beginning, Kelsey Grammer had grown tired of playing Frasier Crane after Cheers, and he wanted to take on a completely different role, a paralyzed real estate tycoon. But NBC refused. They insisted he keep the original character if the show was going to air. So the entire team had to reluctantly pivot. They moved the setting from a bar to a radio station in Seattle, just to create something fresh while still keeping Frasier. And somehow, that forced decision ended up creating one of the most refined sitcoms in television history. It just goes to show, sometimes being pushed into a corner is exactly what leads to a masterpiece. Do you think Grammer would have reached the same level of success if he'd played that dark tycoon instead? Number 12. Improvised lines that were never in the script. You probably remember moments like Niles panicking and screaming at the sight of germs, or Frasier delivering sharp, sarcastic remarks while being stared down by Eddie the dog without blinking. When watching these scenes, it's easy to assume every laugh was meticulously scripted down to the millisecond, right? But that's not the case. All of those moments were completely spontaneous. One of the most interesting details is that whenever Kelsey Grammer forgot his lines, he would save the scene with his signature arrogant expression. Ironically, those mistakes help shape a more authentic and relatable Dr. Crane. Sometimes the most human moments become the invisible thread that pulls audiences closer to a character, making the laughter feel richer and far more memorable. Number 11. Kelsey Grammer and Moose weren't actually close. If you've ever melted at the heartwarming moments between Eddie the dog and the cast of Frasier, this behind-the-scenes truth might make you laugh. All of those affectionate gestures on screen were actually powered by sardine oil and liver paste. Moose, the dog who played Eddie, was a true professional actor. To him, Kelsey Grammer and the rest of the cast weren't close companions, they were basically mobile food dispensers. To get a sweet on-screen kiss, the makeup team would dab sardine oil directly onto an actor's face. And whenever you see Eddie nuzzling someone's ear so lovingly, it's actually because trainers had cleverly hidden a bit of peanut butter or liver paste right behind the ear. Which is why you could say Moose might just be one of the most dedicated method actors in Hollywood. Number 9. Eddie received more fan mail than the entire cast. Here's a fact that's both hilarious and a little painful for the A-list cast of Frasier. Despite their talent and impressive achievements, they all had to settle for second place behind a dog. Eddie was the character who received the most fan mail. Throughout multiple seasons, the number of letters, greeting cards, and gifts sent to Moose consistently outpaced those sent to Kelsey Grammer, David Hyde Pierce, and the rest of the cast. While the actors had to study thick scripts to win over the audience, Moose only needed a perfectly timed judgmental stare and a subtle head tilt to completely steal viewers' hearts. What do you think about Moose? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Number 9. Peri Gilpin had only 72 hours to memorize the script. We remember Roz for her husky voice, razor-sharp sarcasm, and a bold personality that never backed down in the face of the famous psychiatrist's arrogance. But here's something few people know. Peri Gilpin, who played Roz Doyle, wasn't the original choice. Before her, another actress had already been cast and had spent weeks rehearsing the role. Right before filming began, the producers realized that the chemistry between her and Kelsey Grammer just wasn't working, so they made a last-minute decision to recast. Peri Gilpin was called in for an emergency audition and had only 72 hours to memorize the entire script for the first episode. Imagine that kind of pressure. A major role, a massive amount of dialogue, and just 3 days to prove yourself. Yet it was precisely in that rush and overwhelming pressure that Peri created an irreplaceable Roz Doyle. Just think, without Peri Gilpin, would we even have the legendary Frasier-Roz duo today? Number 8. The identity of the actress replaced as Roz Doyle in just 3 days. You're probably wondering who Peri Gilpin replaced, right? It was none other than Lisa Kudrow. In 1993, Lisa actually landed the role, but her journey lasted only 3 days. Her audition was extremely impressive, but once rehearsals began, something felt off. The issue wasn't that Lisa lacked talent, it was that she was too nice. Her natural warmth clashed with a version of Roz Doyle who needed to be sharp and tough enough to go toe-to-toe with Frasier. The producers realized she wouldn't be an equally matched verbal sparring partner for Kelsey Grammer, so they had to let her go. Put yourself in Lisa's shoes. Losing a role like that couldn't have felt good at all. Number 7. Daphne's voice was fake.
I really like your accent. Where are you from?
Manchester.
Manchester. That's where the Beatles are from, right?
Oh, no. You're thinking Liverpool.
Most fans in the US naturally assumed Daphne Moon was a true Manchester native. But here's the interesting twist. If you brought that exact accent back to Manchester, locals would probably find it a bit off. Here's the reveal. Jane Leeves is indeed British, but she's actually from West Sussex, about 200 miles away from Manchester. When she took on the role, she had to force herself to speak in a Northern English accent. In fact, her Manchester accent was so unconvincing that local residents would often call in to complain, saying it sounded like a flawed imitation. But here's the ironic part. While Brits were losing their minds over it, American audiences absolutely loved it. So Jane Leeves went on performing for all 11 seasons with an accent considered a disaster back home, yet it became one of the most beloved traits of the show in the US. Number 6. The truth about the Space Needle. If you look closely at Frasier's penthouse apartment in Frasier, you'll notice the Space Needle always sits perfectly in the middle of the window, but sometimes it mysteriously disappears or shifts position like an unexpected guest. That's because the entire stunning city view behind the balcony is just a massive backdrop hung on a studio set. Here's the fun detail. The image was actually taken from Kerry Park. In real-world geography, getting that exact view from a downtown apartment would be impossible. Over the seasons, the production team swapped out different backdrop versions, so the tower's position would randomly shift depending on which photo was used that week. Did you ever catch a moment when the tower seemed to wander off? Number 5. The theme song was written in 20 minutes. Frasier's sense of spontaneity didn't stop at the script, it extended to the theme song as well. Have you ever wondered why the lyrics of tossed salad and scrambled eggs sound so completely unrelated? The truth is, composer Bruce Miller wrote it in just 20 minutes. At first, those random sounding words were simply improvised placeholders he sang over the demo to match the jazz rhythm. But the result exceeded all expectations. Miller originally planned to submit it and revise the lyrics properly later, but the production team immediately signed off on it because that weird, illogical quality perfectly matched the show's unique tone. What makes it even more special is that Kelsey Grammer performed the song himself instead of hiring a professional singer. That authentic voice turned the track into something personal, like a signature greeting from Dr. Frasier to the audience every night. It may sound absurd on its own, but once it's paired with the show, it somehow feels perfectly right. Number 4. Martin's chair was intentionally made ugly. That worn-out chair, covered in outdated olive-striped fabric, looks like something forgotten since the 1970s. But don't be fooled. It wasn't some random thrift store find, it was a deliberate artistic choice by the design team. To create a sharp contrast between Frasier's refined luxury and his working-class father, the designers custom-built a chair that was as visually unpleasant as possible. They searched extensively for the right fabric, then treated it to look faded, worn, and stained. Just imagine, in an apartment filled with furniture and artwork worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, this chair sits there like a complete outsider. And that clash is exactly what makes it funny at first glance. It's design at its finest. Sometimes you have to spend a lot of money just to create something that looks incredibly cheap and ugly. Number 3. Kelsey Grammer played Frasier for 20 consecutive years. Have you ever wondered how an actor can live inside a character for so long that people start to forget their real name? For most stars, they stick with a role for a few seasons and then move on. But Kelsey Grammer was different. He turned Frasier Crane into a decade-spanning journey. When Cheers ended, it seemed like he would take a break, but instead he immediately brought the character to Seattle and continued the story for another 11 seasons in his own spin-off, Frasier. With more than 460 episodes over 20 continuous years, he set a level of endurance that few in television history have ever matched. But the real surprise came with the 2023 revival. Kelsey Grammer officially broke all limits by playing the same character across 4 different decades, from the 1980s and 90s all the way to the 2020s. At this point, Frasier Crane is no longer just a role. It feels more like an old friend who's been present in living rooms for half a lifetime. Would you have the patience to follow a single character for 40 years? Let me know below. Number 2. Frasier's apartment was incredibly expensive. Are you impressed by Frasier's apartment at Elliott Bay Towers? It wasn't just a regular set. It became a symbol of luxury in television history, with a construction cost of over $500,000 back in 1993. What made it stand out was the design team's philosophy: no cheap props. Instead of using fake items, every piece of furniture in the apartment was high-end designer decor with real collectible value. Even the backdrop recreating the glowing Space Needle through the window cost around $50,000 to achieve maximum realism. At first, NBC executives were shocked by the massive budget, but the creators proved their vision. They treated the apartment as a character itself, one that defined the show's sophistication and identity. That investment paid off, creating an irresistible upscale living space that attracted premium advertising deals and captivated even the most discerning audiences. Number 1. Eddie the dog and the intense training behind the scenes. If you think a smart dog like Eddie was chosen by chance, you're completely wrong. To achieve those professional-level expressions, Moose underwent 18 months of rigorous training. He was so skilled that he could hit marks precisely, react perfectly to dialogue cues, and perform complex actions with just the snap of a finger. But here's a secret many viewers never noticed across 11 seasons. Eddie was actually played by 2 dogs, a father and his son. Moose handled the first 7 seasons, and then his son Enzo, trained to replicate every movement, took over seamlessly for the final 4 seasons. From a reluctant beginning to unexpected on-set moments, Frasier proves that success doesn't come from perfection at the start. It's the imperfections, the worn-out chair, the last-minute song, the recast actors that gave the show its unique identity for decades. After hearing all 15 behind-the-scenes secrets, which detail surprised you the most? And which legendary show would you like us to break down next? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to follow the channel.